Episode 263, When Trust Breaks, the First Steps After Betrayal Trauma, with Jennifer Townsend.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with the coach? Here we go.
In the first episode of 2026, Heather sits down with betrayal coach Jennifer Townsend, founder of Happily Ever After, to talk about what happens when trust is shattered by infidelity, emotional affairs, or pornography betrayal. Jennifer shares pieces of her own story, why betrayal feels uniquely traumatic, and what early healing actually requires: compassion, nervous system regulation, safe support, and tiny doable steps. Whether someone chooses to rebuild or leave, this conversation offers clarity, hope, and a path forward that doesn't require abandoning yourself. Please enjoy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast today and welcome to 2026. This is going to be we're recording this at the tail end of 25, but this is the first episode that is going to be released in 2026. And that seems very bizarre to me. But I am joined today by Coach Jennifer Townsend. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
Awesome. So awesome. I'm so excited. It's 2026. I think it's going to be a good year.
It is going
I'm
to be a
hoping
good
so.
year. I mean, yeah. And how could it not be, right? Life is good and there are things
Yes.
that are crazy, but there are so many things that are amazing as well. But Jennifer has not been on with me before, so I am excited to bring you a new face in our community, and I'm going to let her introduce herself so we can kind of get a little peek into her life and why she does what she does. So Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name's Jennifer Townsend. I go by Life Coach Jen, and I call my company Happily Even After because I am a coach. I coach on betrayal and how to heal from betrayal. And so I decided there has to be a happiness even after. And I'm also divorced. And so those two things have a lot of heavy. And so I just feel like I want to give people hope. And I have 4 kids. I have one daughter that's married, and she lives far away in Dallas, Texas. Not too far, but still far enough. And
Not down the street.
Yeah, not down the street. And so I have to take a plane if I want to go visit her. And then I have 2 kids that live with me, another daughter and a son. And then my youngest he recently moved out and is living on his own. So I have a dog named Dexter. He's a golden doodle. And so that's fun. But yeah, I love coaching. I love helping people. That's kind of been my part of my own healing journey. I have a podcast, so I like learning new things and talking. I love to travel. I've traveled all over the world, and hopefully I'll get to continue traveling and experiencing new things. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot more, but that's what I can think about right now.
Thank you. I love getting a little bit of a glimpse into people's lives. And I think it gives us, somebody to connect to, right? And to understand each other's stories. But so you said you're a betrayal coach. You work with people who have
who've experienced betrayal.
Yeah.
And mostly I work with people that have had their spouses have had emotional affairs or physical affairs.
Okay.
But I also do work sometimes with people that their spouses are dealing with pornography issues.
Okay.
And then I've also coached the betrayed, the people that were the betrayers, which is like the other side of it. And I coach men and I coach women. So when I originally started as a coach, I thought, I'll only coach women and I'll only coach the betrayed women. It's interestingly, I've been on my journey. There's a lot of men that have experienced betrayal. So I've had a lot of worked with a lot of men, and some of the betrayers, right, that have had the affairs, whether they're working on their marriage, and so they want me to work with both the husband and the
Mhm.
wife. Or I have a few clients, they just wanted my perspective. They wanted to try to understand their spouse. So they thought if they'd hired someone that had been betrayed, they could have a little more understanding as they're healing, a little bit more compassion. So it's just been interesting. I would say most people want to stay married. Not all, but in general, when the initial disclosure happens, they want to try to rebuild their marriage because most people, if there's kids involved, there's, their community, their family, it's really hard just to say what we think. If our spouse ever had an affair, we want to leave immediately. But when you have a lot of history with someone and kids and assets and friends, that's really a lot harder to walk away from. And so it feels like, okay, we can work on this. And I do believe people can rebuild, but it takes two people to do that. And
Absolutely.
sometimes that's not possible.
Yeah, because you wouldn't just be walking away from a person, you're walking away from a life, right?
Yeah. And,
A lot more.
religiously, right? We're married forever. And so when you get married, you just think it's going to be forever. And, through the good, the bad, the hard. And so I think that other layer is really, I mean, it kept me in my marriage for 26 years because I was like, I can fix this. We can fix this. We can figure this out. I can forgive you. Like, how many times can I forgive you? You were told, like, 70 times 7. And so I think for me, that's a good quality about me. I'm a very forgiving person, but also it ended up hurting me in the long run because I kept on forgiving someone that wasn't doing things to be forgiven of, right? Like they weren't
Right.
changing. They weren't having that. And so I really had to do a lot of work on forgiving myself. And sometimes that's really how I began healing because I was like, I brought everything to me. And so my own journey, and the reason why I'm a betrayal coach is because that was my experience in my own marriage, in my own life. Coaching helped me so much. It just like opened up so many ideas and possibilities for me that I thought I need to become a coach. I want to become a coach. I want to help other people do this. So it helped me so much. Then I thought, okay, I can help other people. This is something that I can do to help me, my family, and others.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting as I'm listening to you. Like, obviously, they're coming because they have felt betrayed by somebody else. But I think ultimately, as I listened to you, it was like there's also a piece where you felt that you had betrayed yourself
Absolutely. The amount
right?
of betrayal, I totally, and it happens because we think we're going to, set boundaries. I mean, I didn't even know about boundaries, right? When I
Yeah.
was first married. I mean, in the 90s, in the early 2000s, like no one was talking about any of this. We didn't have the internet. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I just held it in, and so that also creates a lot of shame that a lot of people experience because also it is I really encourage people not to run and tell their family because if you are going to try to work on it, then you have to manage their minds, right? And you can't control what they think. And so then it just poisons the well even more, I think. But yeah, it's complicated. And if you don't know what you don't know, but the amount of betrayal, because of course I was put in situations, did things that were against my value system, but I felt like I was doing them to try to save my marriage. And I thought, okay, my marriage trumps everything else. And that was something for sure that I had to heal. And a lot of people, it's like we self betray because we convince ourselves, that the marriage is more important than anything else. And it's not always the case. And especially when betrayal is involved, it's challenging.
So, for somebody who has just discovered a betrayal and
Mhm.
obviously feels like their world has exploded, right? But what's
Yeah.
the very first thing that you would offer to them that you would want them to know?
Well, first of all, they're not alone and it's not their fault because So often, most people, not everyone, I mean, most people like intellectually understand it wasn't their fault, but I call it, we shame and blame. And I call it a trap because um, when the person gets caught, oftentimes they get caught, right? Someone finds a random text message, they get a phone call, they get a message on Facebook Messenger. I mean, there's lots of ways people discover the affair, but once it's discovered, sometimes their spouse they're not honest or, um, anyways, it's complicated. So I think to have lots of compassion for yourself, to know like however you reacted is normal because it's like I'm very into your nervous system, right? But I think it's also really, you have to it's in your body. You're experiencing betrayal trauma. So, to just not, I mean, our instinct is to take all their clothes and like, we want to be destructive. Some of us want to be destructive. Some of us just go inward. We all have different ways of reacting. And so just being really compassionate with however you reacted is okay, right? Like, and you it's not a DIY fix. You cannot heal and you have to get help. You have to find safe places to tell someone. And I am a firm believer that a bishop, an ecclesiastical leader, is your spiritual leader and they aren't your therapist. They aren't your marriage counselor. And so I think a lot of times in the church, we run and want to tell our bishop like all the terrible things our spouse did, but that's not their job. That's not their place. They don't have the resources. They don't have the knowledge how to help you, right? They can help you spiritually, but not help you with your marriage. And I know there are resources to help pay for you to get therapy or whatever, right? So, but if you can, getting a therapist, getting a coach, having someone that you can talk to that's neutral. Because if you talk to your mom or your brother and sister or your dad, they're going to take your side and it's going to be really hard to be neutral. And then if you do end up staying in your marriage, it's complicated because then you've dumped all their dirty laundry out for everyone to see. And then it's really hard to, other people, they're going to have other opinions. And I always tell people you're the only one that can decide whether you can stay in your marriage or leave your marriage because it isn't anyone else's marriage besides yours. And so you
They're also
can't ask
not
your
there.
friend.
Yeah, they're also not there to like the work that you do or the work that the other person is doing, right? They're
Yeah,
just left with the initial,
shock. Yeah.
baggage that you've shared with them.
Yes. And so, and then people, of course, there's some people that want to share their opinion and then you have to manage your mind with your spouse, but then your friend or your mom, right? And so it just makes it a lot heavier and a lot harder to heal. I mean, eventually, if you're like choosing divorce or if you've made a decision as you're healing, right? When you're more healed, it might be easier to talk about or easier to share. Obviously, I didn't tell anyone for decades. I was I was in so much shame. Carried my shame and my former husband's, because I was just so mortified. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to me. This isn't supposed to be my life." So it was very disorienting for me. And so I'm very vocal now because for me, it was very healing. Once I finally had the courage to say, this is what happened, this was my life. And I realized it was never about me. But I don't expect or recommend everyone needs to be like me, right? Like we don't all have to be going around telling people. And obviously I don't tell every detail. And I try to keep my kids private. My kids do know about all of this because they're adults and they pretty much figured it out on their own without me even having to tell them.
You mentioned this earlier, that betrayal comes in many forms, right? It's not
Yes,
necessarily infidelity, pornography. There is financial betrayal. There's so many ways that
yes.
betrayal can happen. But I'm wondering why betrayal in itself feels so uniquely painful compared to other kinds of heartbreak or trauma.
Yeah, I think because this is your person, like you made commitments, like you have like when you get married, you promise to be faithful, right? You make all these commitments with each other. It's your most intimate partner, right? Your most vulnerable moments, right? Is when you're together and they know everything about you, every good quality and every bad quality. And so it feels so vulnerable when they step out on that and they're starting to share that with someone else. And then they're lying about it. And most affairs, it's not like most affairs happen in good marriages. It's not like there's a bad marriage. I mean, that does happen, right? There's all sorts of different times, but most women are like, we had a good marriage. Things were good. Like, yeah, we were busy. We were raising our kids, but I thought things were okay. Or like maybe they were a little off. Like I thought things were off, but I didn't think that he would ever do this or she would ever do this. And I find women that have affairs, they're doing it through Facebook. Like they're reaching out to a past boyfriend in high school. I mean, and these are people in their 50s and 60s. It's like, you know better, right? Like, why risk that? But I think, people are insecure, they lack connection, or they have a lot of need for validation. One thing I've learned in coaching, which I just love so much, it's like our job to validate ourselves. Like we can't expect our husband or our wife to give us all the validation we need. We have to do that for ourselves. And then, of course, it's great if other people notice how awesome we are or what a good job we did. But if we're not doing that for ourselves, we're susceptible to, I mean, not all of us are, but some of us could be more susceptible to an affair. And you really have to talk about your boundaries. I think a lot of people, they're like, I just expected that they wouldn't do that. And so I don't think we're talking about like, okay, these are the boundaries around, I don't want you going out to lunch with another woman. Now, I get when men are working, I mean, most of my spouse's affairs happened from people he worked with, right? And so, but I trusted him going to work, right? So you just have to have boundaries in place, and not everyone is a cheater, right? Like I never thought to have an affair. Like that's not in my nature. But the thing I think our weaknesses are, strengths sometimes become our weaknesses because I'm a loyal person, but I became more loyal to like the idea of my marriage, not the reality of it, more than I was to me. Which is the betrayal, right? The self-betrayal. And so I had to turn that and realize like, no, I need to be loyal to me. Even I would put like everyone else above me meant, I put everyone else's needs above me. And then I just neglected myself. And then I was in a miserable place. And I think a lot of people, we do that. We're to try to save the idea of the marriage that we think we have. But the reality is, it's not the marriage we have because that person is lying to us and sleeping with someone else or, chatting all the time. And affairs usually involve like a lot of like intensity. It's like a drug. So it's like they're spending hours texting and I mean, all sorts of things, sending pictures and, just things that it's like this whole other world that for me felt very foreign. I didn't grow up I grew up in Colorado Springs and I didn't have one friend that was divorced or I didn't have that experience or that background. Like, I'm like, isn't everyone just honest? Right? Like, I just was, I think, kind of naive. And I just was expecting that from my spouse. And I think so that's why the betrayal trauma is so intense because it is your person. You had babies with them. You know, for me, my spouse was my financial, like I was a stay-at-home mom. So I wasn't out working. I was at home taking care of the home and the kids and all the other things.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. Like you said, you didn't talk about it before. You talk about it now, but it's still personal things, right? And it's still, but I think people hearing your story gives hope to people who are in this experience or having this experience or have experienced this in general. There's so much hope in hearing somebody else speak to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's helpful because then you know you're not alone. And so many people feel very isolated, even today, right? Like even nowadays, I mean, I'm a huge social media fan. I'm very pro social media. I get there's negative things. I'm not one to get caught up or jealous. That's just not my personality. So, because there's so much help out there. And I mean, I had a lady last night from New York, somewhere in New York. She saw my a video, signed up for my free call, and she couldn't necessarily, well, her thought is she can't afford coaching, right? But she in 30 minutes, like I could just give her some relief. She had someone to share her story with that she desperately needed. She felt very alone. She lived in, she was just lonely. She needed to share with someone. And so I just love that social media, Zoom, all the things gives us opportunities to reach out, even if it's just for 30 minutes, that I could give her a little bit of like hope. I think that's such a beautiful thing. Like back in the day, the first time I discovered betrayal in my marriage, like there was no one, and I wasn't about to go tell my next door neighbor or anyone. I did have a brother that I confided in. Um, eventually, but even there just wasn't, I didn't have that. There wasn't anyone to talk to. And even they didn't even understand betrayal trauma. Betrayal trauma didn't even like really trauma didn't even come on the scene until like 2010, a little bit later after 2010.
I would love for you to even share with us as we've kind of talked about the betrayal and how it feels and why it feels so heavy. On the flip side of it, like how does someone begin to rebuild after they have discovered a betrayal and it's like I'm assuming you have to live in that. I mean, for
Yeah.
there's not a set time for like
Yeah.
the
Well, I love the
grief process or
analogy.
whatever.
Yeah, I love the analogy, like the river of misery. Like it
Mhm.
really, you have to be in the river like for a long time. I think people think, first of all, they think divorce. If they get divorced, then often I see a lot of women, especially, they think, oh, I'm going to get divorced. Then I won't feel this anymore. And then I jump into a new marriage and maybe not the exact same thing happens, but you have to heal from it. It's like if you don't pull the root out, it still is there. And even so many times people think, oh, we'll just pretend, like move on. I don't have the energy. I can't feel this. I did that for years, so many years. I just thought I wasn't willing to get divorced because I thought I have babies. What am I going to do like with these babies? And be a single mom. Like I didn't tell anyone. So I just thought, okay, it's just going to get better. Things will be better. But the problem is it still festers. And so I think learning how to feel your emotions and process your emotions, understand, I always tell people judgment keeps us stuck. And so we have to get out of judgment, especially for ourselves. Um, Judgment for everyone in the story, but especially yourselves. However you act or feel is okay. Healing isn't like a up and down line. It's like this, right? It's just, and sometimes people think like, oh, but I was doing good yesterday and now today I can't get out of bed. And it is hard when your spouse just wants you to get over it and they don't want to with it because it's uncomfortable for them. And that's a problem, right? Because it takes several years to even really feel healed. And so I think people are like, well, it's been 3 months. Why aren't I over it? And it's because it's such an intense thing. You just have to every day, like I'm like, it's like baby steps. You just have to do one little thing. And when you learn to regulate your nervous system and find tools to get you out of fight, flight, or freeze, I think understanding that how to create safety within you. And people, I think, oftentimes think, I don't feel safe around my spouse, but it's not your spouse's job to make you feel safe. It's your job. And so you've got to create safety within yourself so you can have those difficult conversations. You can ask the questions. You can figure out what you want to do. And the thing is, it's not a rush. Like, I'm like, don't rush and just get divorced, because you have to heal, because you're making not a great decision if your nervous system is in like fight or flight or freeze. Your I call it your CEO part of your brain. It's offline. And so you got to be online to make a good choice. And anyways, so I think it's just a process. It's really like learning to feel your emotions. Like for me, that's one thing coaching taught me so much is like I was an avoider for sure and a resistor. I wasn't necessarily a reactor, but I avoided, I resisted. And so allowing myself to feel my feelings and not judging myself, like, of course I felt this way. Of course I felt terrible. And once I could start doing that, then it became easier for me to, and then have my own back, right? Like, if my spouse was telling me, like, just what's wrong with you? Like, move on. Like, it's no big deal or whatever they would say. I mean, I'm sure I have lots of things that they said, but, or just people in general, people, it's uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable that you're uncomfortable and sad. And it's like, you got to just be sad and just bring sad with you, right? And it doesn't have to
Right.
define you. Journaling was huge help for me. Like, gratitude. I had a gratitude journal and I did it for a while, and I would write 12 things that I was grateful for the day. And then this was when I was getting divorced, and I would write 13 things that I was grateful for my divorce, which was really hard for me because I was very resistant to getting divorced. But when I could start doing that, I could see, like, yeah, this is the right thing for me. This is the right decision. This is what I needed to do. And now, like, I love being divorced. I just love not being married to someone that's cheating on me, probably. But yeah, so I think people just want to rush because it's so many really intense emotions, but that's just not how our body works. We're just not made to, like, it is a process, but the problem is people they just want to get through it. So then they just pretend or resist or try to like do quick fixes, and that just never works. And I think I'm working with a guy that the affair happened 20 years ago. He now retired, and he has since retired, and they moved, and it all came bubbling back up because he thought he had dealt with it 20 years ago, but he really didn't. And so now it's totally affecting him, and it's caught him off guard. But that's what happens when we don't actually process our emotions. They stay inside of us, and they haven't fully been processed. So I don't know. I think it's really important, but it's a hard one. It's just a process, and everyone's different how they experience betrayal. Like, some people, I mean, it has a lot to do with like your insecurities, right? Feeling not enough. That's a huge one. Like, I'm not enough. And it's like, but wait, are they enough for you? I always think, like, I had to get to the point, wait, he's not enough for me. Like, I'm definitely enough, but I don't want to be with someone that likes to lie to me, sleep with other women. That's not who I want to be married to ultimately. And that's what I was choosing, right? Basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I mean, it's like so cut and dry to say it that way. And I realize there's so many other layers
Yes.
to it. But ultimately, like,
Yeah.
we are making choices that can be
Yes.
summed up pretty
Yeah, and I
cut and
was for
dry.
sure unconsciously making a choice, right? And once I started bringing it to my conscious, I was like, and for a moment, like for a whole year, I had the thought, I'm choosing to stay. I'm not ready to leave, but I'm choosing to stay. And so I stayed in it because I just wasn't ready. It terrified me. I was so terrified of what divorce would mean. Like, that part terrified me. So, but once took me a whole year to come to be like, no, this is what I need to do.
But even saying that I am choosing to stay is still, it's giving
Yeah.
you
Well, it
control,
empowered
right? Like,
me.
this is my
Yes.
choice, right?
Yes. That helped me. Like, coaching helped me with that because it gave me a thought to think that was more empowering than I have to stay. I have no other choice but to stay, right? Like, before, those were the thoughts I think I was unconsciously thinking. So once I could bring my CEO part of brain, and it's like, no, I'm choosing it. And it wasn't ideal, but I was choosing it. That actually helped empower me enough to then continue healing and get divorced. And now I've been divorced for 3.5 years. And there's 7 stages to healing from betrayal. And the discovery stage, that's the most shocking one. And there's grief, there's layers of grief. It's like it's almost your spouse has died, the spouse that you knew. And really, your marriage dies. You have to, if you're going to stay married, you have to rebuild it from the ground up. You can't just like knock down a wall and be like, oh, it's fine, or paint over it. Well, that's how I envision it, is like when you avoid it, you're like just painting over the mistake. Well, it's not a mistake, it's a choice.
Well, that's such a great visual because that is, in reality, I think what happens for most people, right? It's just, well, we'll just cover it up, basically, paint over it and move on.
Yeah, yes.
And whatever was
We'll
under
hang
that
a nice family
paint
picture
is,
up.
yeah, whatever was you put over it, it's still underneath.
Yes.
it's gonna seep through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh, Jennifer, this is really interesting to me and I think so important, but also like time has flown by.
Yeah.
I
I
know
get that. I know we could
there's
talk for hours, but yeah,
we
that's enough.
could, we
Enough
really
betrayal
could.
for today.
As we leave here, I would love, maybe you could share with us, like if someone is listening feels completely stuck, what is one small step they could take today in order to feel like they're taking a step forward, like they're progressing in some way?
Yeah. I think, first of all, it's okay. You're going to be okay. And what's one small step? I think journaling's free, right? Try to find one good moment about your day, like little glimmers, right? I like the idea, because not to sugarcoat or pretend your life is great, but when you have so much hard, to just try to find one positive thing, or one thing that, even if it's like, I got dressed, I brushed my teeth. You have to also, those are really good, important things, is to just do some sort of self care, even if it is just brush your teeth, put some different clothes on besides your pajamas, drink water, eat something. It's really hard to eat. If you've ever, people call it like the divorce diet. Well, but that's not necessarily a good way. It's because people aren't eating, when it's like you can't get yourself to eat because your system is in so much shock. So and then having lots of love and compassion for yourself, and know it wasn't your fault. Even if your spouse is telling you it is, they might have a whole list of things that they think you have done to cause them to go have an affair, but you didn't do one thing on that list. They chose it themselves, and they're now just choosing to blame you.
I can hear the rebuttal in some people's minds right now going, I don't believe you, right? I don't
Yes.
believe in some
Yes.
way that it wasn't my fault. And that's
Yeah,
because
and
there's something inside
that's
of you that
part of the
really is believing.
healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is, I mean, I believed it was my fault for a very, very long time. I mean, decades. And so I really had to connect my mind to my heart and realize, no, this was about them. So you can rebut me. That's fine. I totally get
Well,
it.
they
I'm just
can rebut
telling
you,
you.
but
Yeah.
I would like to offer, like, it's possible that it's
Yes.
not your fault, right?
Yes.
Like, we kind of like, it's really hard to jump sometimes to it's not my fault, but
Yes. Yeah.
maybe it's possible that it's not, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's just some work
What
that can
if
be
it's
done.
possible? What if that's true?
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, thank you so
Yes.
much for being here with me today. I would not want to leave without hearing from you how people can connect with you and get more help if they are in need of betrayal coaching or
Yeah.
even just a
Well,
little sliver of hope.
my Instagram is happily even after coach. So happily even after coach.
Okay.
And that's my Instagram, my Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. And my podcast is Happily Even After Betrayal with Life Coach Jen. So, and I have every Monday, I have a new episode that comes out. And so you can listen there. And in all that, you can find how to, like, I offer a call, free clarity call that you can hop on, and we can chat to see if coaching is going to be helpful for you or not.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing
thanks so
your
much. It
heart
was
and
nice to
your
talk.
wisdom and your experience with us, because I think people need to hear those stories and be able to use them in their lives to find the courage to
Yes.
do what they need to do to be loyal to themselves and be able to then love the people in their story
Yes.
that they want to love, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yes.
thank you. Thanks so much for being with me today. Thank you to our listeners for being here, and we'll see you again next week. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.